Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and today's show is presented by Prize Picks. We got a big-time show coming up because Brendan Sorsby did officially list in the NFL Supplemental Draft. So we'll talk about what that means for the Vikings team, and then more specifically, J.J. McCarthy, because the Vikings do end up bidding for Brendan Sorsby. I think that probably means the era of J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota is probably done. So we'll talk about that coming up on today's show. But if you guys could, hit that subscribe button today. We're taking on our Bears Now channel in a race to 100 subscribers. I think we can do it. Should be picking up a bunch of new subscribers on today's show. So if you guys want daily Vikings content through the dog days of the offseason, we got you guys every single day. So go down there, hit that subscribe button, plus help us beat Bears Now in a race to 100 subs. So Tom Pelissero last night breaking this news saying star quarterback Brendan Sorsby is applying to enter the NFL Supplemental Draft, sources tell NFL Network, after legal wrangling about his NCAA eligibility. Sorsby, regarded as a first-round talent, now could be the highest drafted supplemental pick in decades. Now, Siliano also tweeted this, giving him some context here, saying deleted previous tweet. Evidently, a team is allowed to bid a specific pick in a certain round if it own multiplies. So talking about like the Vikings here, the Vikings have a third-round pick from Philadelphia. If they want to bid that third-round pick, they can choose whether it's their own third-round pick or the Philadelphia Eagles third-round pick. So if you guys don't know the supplemental draft, it's going to take place in late July, and this is normally for people or prospects who, maybe they lost a year of eligibility, they couldn't get that year from the NFL draft, and they move on, and then they potentially could be drafted here in late July. So teams are grouped into three tiers. Teams with 6 or fewer wins, remaining non-playoff teams, and playoff teams for the three tiers of the supplemental draft. And if multiple teams submit the same round bid on Sorsby, the team with the higher supplemental draft priority is awarded the player. So, for example, let's just say the Vikings and another team like the Detroit Lions, for example, non-playoff teams, but they had more than 6 wins, it would just become a lottery system at that point, and it's just dealer's choice from the NFL. So which pick could the Vikings potentially bid for Brendan Sorsby? Well, you have a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and 2 third-round picks, thanks to the Jonathan Gennard trade to the Philadelphia Eagles. No 4th-round pick, but you do have 2 fifths. Shout out to the Adam Thielen trade for that one. Then you also do have the Jets' 6th-round pick from the Harrison Phillips trade. Then you do have a 7th-rounder from the Eagles. Now, I think the Vikings' only way they could land Brendan Sorsby is if they bid a second-round pick. And I think it would be a catastrophic mistake to do this. I just think there is no reasoning for the Vikings to, make this move. If you think, all right, Sorsby's a, hell of a talent, if you want to kind of buy low on a guy, maybe I could hear you out on that. But I just don't think the Vikings, their roster for the future, you need that second-round pick. To go bid that on a quarterback who has shaky football character, to say the least, I would just not be a fan of it. So why is Sorsby in the supplemental draft? Because he was supposed to transfer to Texas Tech, playing his previous season at Cincinnati, but then he was caught in this huge gambling scandal where he transferred $60,000 to friends to place bets on his behalf. At least 2,900 bets, $30,000 were placed while at Indiana. And then he placed 40 bets on Indiana football, totaling at least $850. And he also placed 50-plus bets on Indiana basketball, totaling more than $1,400. Now, that continues. He placed 300 bets on college football, totaling at least $6,500. Placed 1 or 2 of the 3 bets on Cincinnati hoops for $3,500. And he sent $5,000 to a person who placed bets on the NBA, MLB, and PGA. And listen, you just have to question this guy's character. I mean, you are one of the top quarterbacks in the country. If you were going to risk your own future to just place bets when he probably was already making a ton of money through the NIL, you have to question his character. That is another reason why the Vikings, just the noise that Brendan Sorsby would bring, I would be against it. And also I have questions if he is a first-round talent. I think people are just trying to hype this up to get clicks during the dog days of the offseason. This is Sorsby on second reads in 2025 and 2026. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the country, completing 43.8% of his passes. No big-time throws on his second read. I mean, you see guys like Julian Sand, Drew Messamaker, Trinidad Chamba, C.J. Carr. All of these guys are way better than what Brendan Sorsby showed. Cincinnati's offense is a fluky offense. It's really catering to the quarterback on those first reads. But when he moves off them, he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the country. But what say you? Probably not a second-round pick, but would you bid a third-round pick for Brendan Sorsby? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Third-round pick, I'm not doing it as well. But you guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Now, I do want to give a massive shout-out to our good friends at Prize Picks. And if you guys plug in promo code HMA, we'll hook you guys up with $50 instantly on lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. The app is really easy to use. All you got to do is pick more or less on a few players' stats and lock in your lineup. Prize Picks is available in most states, including California, Texas, Florida, New York, and Minnesota, and it makes watching my favorite sporting events that much more enjoyable as I follow my lineup throughout the entire game. But we also have season-long lineups, and that's what we're rolling with for today's show. Going to take the more on Myles Garrett sacks, more on Puka Nacua receiving yards, and the less on Christian McCaffrey rushing yards. But fade those picks or tail them, just do so at Prize Picks. And you guys can also follow me on that. At Pat Sieps is the handle. That is PATSIEPS to see all my lineups there. But sign up for Prize Picks with code HMA and get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. A clickable link to download that will be in the comment section and description of today's show. Now, also on the Brendan Sorsby front with the Minnesota Vikings. Clearly this offseason and obviously around the quarterback position has already been incredibly noisy around this football team. And if you would bring in Brendan Sorsby with the baggage he has, it would just make this an even noisier offseason around the quarterback position. Now, if the Vikings were in a different spot, like maybe a team like the Jets, the Browns, the Cardinals, some of these bottom feeders in the NFL where they're not having that pressure to go win a playoff game this upcoming season, and you're thinking more long-term, then yeah, Sorsby can make some sense. I'm not saying the Vikings aren't thinking long-term. I just think with how noisy it already is around the quarterback position, you bring in Sorsby, it's just going to add more fuel to that fire. And also, if they do land Brendan Sorsby, that's why I titled today's video, McCarthy Getting Bad News, is because it wouldn't necessarily end J.J. McCarthy's era in Minnesota. I think the Vikings could do a couple of different things. They'll just end McCarthy's era. I think you could trade for a guy like Anthony Richardson, or you go spend a second or third round pick on a quarterback like Brendan Sorsby, because Carson Wentz will be on the team this upcoming year. He is the more of the backup quarterback than J.J. McCarthy at this point. I think if the Vikings just had one game, Kyler would obviously get the start, but I think number two would be Carson Wentz. Now, I think on the J.J. McCarthy front, like if you were to pick up Brendan Sorsby, like Vikings would probably just try to trade McCarthy. And the only avenue I could see the Vikings heading in this direction would be like if they end up trading McCarthy for another third-round pick, maybe the Los Angeles Chargers want him to be the backup, then I could see a team bidding a third for Sorsby. And also, like for all the teams that are going to potentially bid for Sorsby, like if I were them, I would just rather take a chance on J.J. McCarthy. He's already been in the league a while. I think he's just got more natural talent than Sorsby does. So I would be against this for the Minnesota Vikings. And also, I can't see them getting him for a third-round pick because a desperate team will offer a second. Whether it's the Cleveland Browns, I could see them being a team. Arizona Cardinals as well. I mean, Carson Beck, Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Brissett, they don't have their long-term option. Same with the New York Jets. I mean, Geno Smith, Cade Klubnik, they could be a team that could easily offer a second. But my dark horse team, and I have a couple here, but my dark horse team would be the Eagles. The Eagles have been operating at the quarterback position. They're always thinking 2 steps ahead. They drafted Cole Payton. They brought in Andy Dalton. They have this whole new scheme. Credit to Sean Mannion. And maybe they have some doubts on Jalen Hurts long-term. I think it's a huge season for Jalen Hurts. Now, he could put all these questions to bed if he goes out there and has a good year. But also keep an eye out maybe on the Detroit Lions. Long-term answer for Jared Goff. They don't have a high-end backup. Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. He's on an expiring contract this season, so they could be another team. I just don't see an avenue where the Vikings do end up drafting Brendan Sorsby. But you guys let me know who will draft Brendan Sorsby. I'm going to hear your thoughts down below. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If I had to give my best call, give me the Buccaneers. I think he would make some sense. They need a long-term backup. Baker Mayfield not under contract for next season, so I would go with Tampa Bay. Now, if you guys could, hit that subscribe button on your way out. We keep you guys posted with daily Vikings content this entire summer, and we'll catch you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.